Over the last month or so, my wife and I have been unpacking a lot of boxes at our new home. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but from the time we were packing and then unpacking, we've had some of those moments where we find something and we pull it out and we say, "Hey, babe, do you know what this is?" And then the next question you ask is, "Where did it come from?" Or what is it for? Have you ever had that experience where you find something in your home, you find something in your room, especially if you have that drawer, right, the junk drawer, you open it up, it's all those things, you don't really know what they are, where they came from, or what they're for, and then eventually you might hold on to one of those things, and that's what we do a lot of times. We'll be like, "I don't know, but it looks important, so let's just hang on to it and see what happens." And then later, you have this moment where you're like, "You know what, I need a part." And you're like, "That's what it's for." The light bulb comes on, you go and get that part. You're like, "I'm so glad I saved it." Or maybe for some of us, you're like, "I can't believe I threw that away now that I know what it's for," right? But when you have that moment, you're like, "How amazing, I just found the purpose of this thing that I had no idea what the purpose of it was, what it was, where it came from, or what it was used for." And today we're talking about purpose. We've been in a series called Discovering God's Power for Your Life. And the last 2 weeks, we talked about how you and I can discover and experience God's power in our daily life through praise, through corporate praise gathered together with God's people, through personal praise last week, where you and I connect with God in a daily rhythm of worshiping Him, of praising Him, and experiencing His power that way. These next 2 weeks, we're going to talk about how you and I can experience God's power by understanding, and the next week by living out our purpose. Now, there's a whole lot of different things that people can think, because we're going to answer life's biggest questions. There's a whole lot of different ways people can answer these questions, but life's biggest existential questions. Questions like, who am I? How did I get here? What is my life all about? How did I get here? How are you and I even here? And then why am I here? Does my life have any meaning? Does your life and my life, does it have any purpose? And a lot of people try to answer those a lot of different ways, but all of those ways on the first question of how did we get here kind of boil down to two different ways that you and I can say we got here. One is that some people would say that you and I are here by accident, by some cosmic accident, cosmic accidental collision of some kind. Now, there's a lot of different statistics, there's a lot of different data, there's a lot of calculations about what it would take for you and I to be here by accident. One of my favorite examples of these calculations of the chances of you and I being here by accident are somebody compared it to the same idea of a tornado going through a landfill, and as it goes through the landfill, it builds a jumbo jet. And that jumbo jet, it doesn't just build it, it builds it so it can fly. And then the calculation, the person who said this said, actually, it would do more than build a flying jumbo jet. It would also build the runway for it to take off and land on. That's the astronomical chances of this happening. Essentially what it's saying is it's absolutely impossible. None of us would expect that to ever happen. We could take billions or hundreds of billions or zillions of years, and all of us would say that would just never happen. And that would also be assuming that everything required for that plane was already in the landfill, right? So some people would say that you and I are just here by accident. But we all know better than that, because we know that Leonardo da Vinci didn't spill some paint and say, "Oh, I'm going to call that the Mona Lisa," right? You and I didn't walk into this building and say, "Man, I can't believe this building just popped up out of nowhere." You're not sitting in a chair going, "You know what, I can't believe this chair just made it here." Now, this table right here is a piece of wood and a little bit of metal, and as simple as this piece is right here, all of us know that this was created and designed because it has some intricacy to it, right? How much more intricacy is there in our universe, in our world, and in your body? It's amazing. Now, the other option is you could say, "You know what, I understand that those chances are slim, those chances are really impossible, and I don't look at anything else in my life that has any form of intricacy and think that it was an accident, so why should I think that you and I, that we are here by accident?" So then you might say, "You know what, there's a creator or a designer." There's a creator or a designer. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, the very first verse in the Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. I want you to know three things today. First is that you were created, that you and I were created. Very simple, very basic understanding as we look into understanding our purpose. You were created. You are not an accident. Not one person in this room is an accident. Now, some people would say, well, how come scientists and science don't agree or believe that there's a creator or that there's a God who created everything? I want you to know something, because I know that that's a question that a lot of us might get. If you have kids, a lot of your kids might ask those questions, or your kids might be asked those questions. Well, scientists don't believe that. I want you to know that that's not true. A lot of scientists actually do, and science points this way, as we're going to see in just a moment. There are a lot of people in this world who actually shout really loud, who want you to believe that the idea, the picture that you and I were created doesn't align with science. There's a lot of people who want you to believe that. That's absolutely not the case. There's a whole lot of people, some of the greatest scientists in the world, who actually look at their science and they believe and they see the same thing that other people see, and they believe it points them to a designer. There's a lot of people who don't admit this, and they even try to explain it away. One of the most well-known atheists in all of the world still today, who doesn't believe that there's a God who created everything, but he looks at the world and he says, clearly there's some kind of special intelligent design. And so he attributes it to aliens, that you and I are here because of aliens. This is the guy that writes books on atheism, who says, I can't deny that there's intelligent design, so it's got to be the intelligence of aliens, because he doesn't want to attribute it to God. There's a man named Patrick Glenn. He had a PhD from Harvard University. He was the deputy director for science programs for the U.S. Department of Energy. Here's what he said. He said, today, the concrete data points strongly in the direction of the God hypothesis. Those who wish to oppose it have no testable theory to rationalize, only speculations about unseen universes spun from fertile scientific imagination. Ironically, the picture of the universe given to us by the most advanced 20th century science is closer in spirit to the vision presented in the book of Genesis than anything else. There are a whole lot of the most well-respected scientists in all of the world who look on the smallest levels and on the largest levels, who look out in the universe and they say, wow, this is clearly designed. There's a God who created all of this. Or they look at the microscopic level and they say, wow, there's clearly a design from a creator God. Did you know that guys like Copernicus, Newton, Galileo, and Kepler, who founded many of the most basic scientific foundations, all believed that there was a God who created everything? It's not chance. So where do we come from? You were created. You are not here by accident. Now, there's something I want to clarify here, because I think all of us, we have this really weird picture a little bit of creation. I want you to know that not only were you created, but you weren't created passively. Like I could take this piece of paper right here, and I can create something out of this piece of paper. A ball, right? I just created a ball. And you say, well, you didn't really, like all you did was crumple it up. You just took the stuff that was there and kind of just shaped it into something. That would be inactive creation, right? Like I did something, but it really has no purpose. All I really did was kind of crumple everything together. The Bible tells us not only were you created, but it tells us that you were created on purpose. By the way, the universe and your life and your body tell you that you're created not just like this, passively, but on purpose. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 says, then the Lord God formed the man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living purpose. In Genesis chapter 1, a living person. In Genesis chapter 1, there's the word asa, which means that God created, that he formed, that he made, or he accomplished all of creation. That's the word when you see it over and over again, that God made these things. It means he accomplished, he did these things. But in chapter 2, it talks about man and God's creation, more specifically of man. And it says that he was formed, that God formed the man from the dust of the ground. The word is yatsar. It's a different word for what's used. It means to be formed or to be fashioned like a potter taking clay and gently moving that clay and shaping it exactly how they want to shape that clay. This is the word that is used. In Jeremiah 1 verse 5, God speaking to Jeremiah, he says, I knew you before I formed you, the same word, yatsar. Before I formed you in your mother's womb, and before you were born, I set you apart. He says, I knew you before I formed you, before I shaped you, Jeremiah. He says, I knew you. I created you exactly how I wanted you to be. I did it on purpose. And by the way, I've created you with purpose. You were created on purpose, and you and I were created with purpose. He says, before I formed you, I had a plan and I had a purpose for you. You're not an accident. You are perfectly formed exactly how I wanted you to be. And I formed you on purpose, and I formed you, Jeremiah, with purpose. I have a purpose for you. Now, some of you might have seen this. Anybody know what this is? A couple of you, right? If you're a tennis player, you probably know what this is. Now, I didn't grow up. I grew up maybe hitting a tennis ball sometimes. Me and my friend would go to take a couple tennis balls and go hit them, and we usually just try to hit them over the fence and stuff like that. But my wife played tennis when she was growing up, all the way through high school. And so when we started dating, we played a little bit of tennis. And then there was a point, I think it was after we were married, actually, because usually when we were dating, we would just take a sleeve of tennis balls and go play. But there was a point where we had one of these. And I was like, man, this is a great little basket to carry our tennis balls. It seems a little bit weird that it's shaped this way and that it looks like this, but this is a cool basket to carry our tennis balls. But then something happened. As we were playing tennis, there were tennis balls all over the place. And my wife walked over and went like this. And it blew my mind. I had no idea. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that thing you just stick it on top of the ball. And then she would do it. And I just sat there watching her. And I was like, I wonder how many it will continue to fill up with. Like, how long will it go before you have to pick them up and dump them in the top again? She kept going and picked them all up. And I was like, this is amazing. I thought it was just a basket to hold all of this, all the tennis balls, but there's so much more to it. It just blew my mind. And then something else happened. Some of you might know where this is going. She went like this. Who knew? Right? I had no idea. I was like, I can't believe this. I literally thought you had to open the top, dump them all in, reach down, and pick them up. Nope. It does all of these things. And actually, I didn't put it together, but there's actually these little things that hold the legs in place. I don't have time to worry about that. But it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I knew that this thing had a purpose to hold tennis balls. I had no idea that it could do all of this. I had no idea that it was created with this special purpose. And here's what happens for a lot of us in our life. You might not know that you were created with a purpose. And today I want you to know you were created on purpose, with a purpose. But for some of us, we might know that we're created with a purpose, but we have no idea the depth of the purpose that we have. Because when I saw this, I knew it had a purpose to hold tennis balls. But I didn't realize there was a whole lot more to it. And you know what? When you're playing tennis, it kind of makes your life a little easier. Like, man, this is amazing. Like, there's a whole lot less I have to do because this does it for me. I want you to know in your life, there's a lot of people that go through their life trying to experience their purpose, trying to live out, trying to find meaningfulness, and trying to find some kind of purpose, and trying to find some kind of significance in our lives. But here's what happens. We struggle and we fight in a way that we were never designed to do because we don't understand the depth of our purpose. You might understand that you have some depth, but when we get into God's word and we understand that we've been created on purpose and we've been created with purpose, that's how you and I get to experience God's power because it changes the way we live. And no longer are we struggling and doing all these things that are completely unnecessary because we've been created to do more than what we knew we were created for. And we don't have to struggle in the same way when we understand that we were created on purpose, and that we were created with purpose. So what is our purpose? We're going to get into it a little bit more next week, and we're going to talk about how you and I can live it out next week to live out our purpose. But Colossians chapter 1, starting in verse 15, 2 verses, says this. It says, He, Jesus, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. Verse 16. For by him all things were created, both in the heavens and on earth, visible and invisible. And it goes on to say, all things have been created through him and for him. If you want to know what your purpose is, this is it right here. You are created by Jesus, through Jesus, and your purpose, you were created for Jesus. It's so important for us to understand why we were created, not just that we were created, because this answers life's biggest questions. How did I get here? And what am I doing here? Why am I here? Because all of us have this feeling. We know that there's more. We know that we have a purpose, and we're trying to understand it more and more and more. This tells us exactly what it is. These existential questions are answered in this verse, that you and I were created by Jesus. And did you know that when God created everything, what did he say? He looked at it and said, it is good. You're not an accident. No matter how you feel, you might say, well, there's some things I don't like about God, the way God created me. Guess what? You might not like them, but God looks at you and he created you exactly how you wanted you to be. And he looks at you and he says, that's good. I did a good job. I created that person. I created you exactly how I wanted you to be. Now, here's the thing. He might not love everything we do with how he's created us, but he created you exactly how he wanted you to be. You're not an accident. You're exactly who he created you to be. But he also created you not just on purpose, but like I said, with a purpose. And your purpose is you're not just created by him, you're created for him. For you and I to experience God's power, to discover God's power in our life, this is our purpose. It comes through understanding our purpose, that we are created for Jesus, by Jesus, and for Jesus. If you've ever created something, you might have created exactly what you wanted. I think all of us do that. I want you to know Jesus created exactly what he wanted when he created you. Exactly what he wanted. Years ago, my wife wanted to buy a picnic table for our back patio. And she was looking at this picnic table, and she said, I want to buy this table. And I said, there's no way we're spending that kind of money on a table for our backyard. So what I said was, you know what I'll do is I'll take the money that we're talking about spending, I'm going to buy some tools, and then I'll buy the lumber, I'll build the table exactly how I want it, and then I'll have the tools at the end. And so that's what I did. I bought all the tools I wanted, bought all the lumber I needed, and built exactly what I wanted. And I was so excited because I knew everything that I wanted in this table, and I built it exactly how I wanted it. I'm pretty tall. And so guess what? I built it a little higher than most tables because that's how I wanted it. And guess what? I love that I built it taller because I built it for me to sit in. And I love it. It's amazing because I built it how I wanted it. God built you and created you with purpose, on purpose, exactly how he wanted you. So for you and I to get to experience God's power in our life, we have to understand that basic idea of God creating you with purpose. You're not an accident today. And when we live that out, we get to experience his power in our life. He knows that the way you and I can best live our lives with meaning and with purpose is to live it for what it was intended for. But how many of us in our lives, if we're honest, we just walk around and we miss out on all the other things, all of what God has for us, because we're just not focused on the purpose that he has for us. We don't understand the depth of the purpose, and we just use, like I would with this thing, I would just use it as a basket. And I'd walk around and use it like this. And we just miss out because this is all we experience because we don't understand the depth of our purpose. I want you to know that God has created you with so much more. And the only way you will get to experience it is as you walk with him, as you live out your purpose with a great understanding that he created you for him. And if your life is directed to bring him glory and bring him honor that only he deserves, you'll get to experience his power